The night began with a strange feeling that no one could describe, and it settled over Hollywood like a quiet whisper that refused to fade. People felt something unusual was coming, yet no one could guess what it was. The industry moved with its normal rush, but there was a soft tension in the air, a gentle pressure that made hearts beat a little faster. No one knew that one unexpected decision from Keanu Reeves would change the rhythm of that entire week. The first clue appeared when a private courier arrived at several studios. The courier carried a box full of sealed envelopes, each one addressed by hand with simple, clean letters. The handwriting looked calm and steady, the kind of writing that belonged to someone thoughtful. When people opened the envelopes, they were surprised to see a short message printed on a plain white card, telling them to attend a private gathering hosted by Keanu Reeves. The message did not include a reason, only a date, a time, and a quiet request for their presence. No one had seen Keanu host a social event in many years. He was known for kindness and respect, but he never organized large gatherings and he never asked people to show up without explanation. This made the city curious. Everyone wanted to know the purpose. The media tried to dig for information, but they found nothing. Publicists had no details. Studio managers had no clues. Even close friends of Keanu said they were unaware of any major announcement. The mystery grew stronger when Sandra Bullock received her envelope. She held it in her hand for a long moment before opening it. The seal broke with a light crack, and she pulled out the same white card that everyone else had received. But hers was different. Unlike the others, her card did not list instructions. It only had her name written in Keanu's handwriting, followed by one small line that said her presence was important. She felt something move inside her chest. It was not fear, but a quiet uncertainty that she could not explain. She and Keanu had shared a deep bond of respect for many years. Their friendship had survived distance, fame, heartache, and silence. But this invitation felt different. It felt personal in a way she did not fully understand. As she sat at her kitchen table, she traced the letters of her name with her thumb. She tried to guess what he needed, but every possible answer felt incomplete. She wondered if this was about a new project or maybe a charity event. She wondered if Keanu was honoring someone else and needed her support. She even wondered if it was something far more serious, something he had kept hidden. The sun dipped behind the hills while she thought, casting long shadows across the room. The soft warmth on her skin reminded her of their early days together, when they worked on their first film and shared long conversations between takes. They had been younger then, full of energy and quiet dreams. He carried calm strength even in those days, and she carried bright warmth that filled the space around her. Together, they balanced each other without trying. All these memories drifted through her mind, and she felt a small ache in her heart. She hoped he was all right. She hoped this invitation was not a sign of hidden trouble. She picked up her phone but forced herself not to call him. If he wanted to explain, he would have explained. If he wanted her to come, she would go. As days passed, the invitation spread through the city like a soft wave. Actors whispered about it in corridors. Producers asked questions at meetings. Young artists wondered why someone like Keanu would host such a quiet and mysterious gathering. There was no schedule, no press release, no charity announcement, and no promotional purpose. This silence made the event feel even more powerful. The evening finally arrived. The location was a renovated art hall on a quiet street, surrounded by tall trees that swayed gently in the night wind. Soft, warm lights framed the entrance. The atmosphere outside felt peaceful, yet every guest approached with growing curiosity. People stepped out of cars wearing formal clothes, but their faces carried uncertainty. They wanted answers. They wanted to understand what this night meant. Inside, the hall felt nothing like a party. Gentle music played in the background, slow and emotional, almost nostalgic. The room was decorated with delicate white lights that hung from the ceiling like stars. The walls were lined with framed photographs, handwritten notes, and small tokens from different film sets. Each item looked carefully chosen. Each item belonged to a story, but none of the displays included pictures of Keanu. The room felt like a tribute, but no one knew to whom. Sandra arrived quietly. She walked through the entrance with calm steps, but her eyes revealed a mixture of confusion and concern. She took in the details of the room. She noticed the gentle lighting, the soft music, the items arranged with care. She noticed that people looked at her with warm recognition, but also with curiosity, as if they believed she knew something they did not. She moved deeper into the hall, looking for Keanu, but he was nowhere in sight. Her heartbeat grew a little faster. She approached a display board filled with candid photographs of crew members smiling during difficult shoots, actors helping each other backstage, and emotional moments captured when no one expected it. The photographs felt real and honest, not staged or glamorous. She recognized some faces. She had worked with many of them through the years. She remembered offering support when someone looked tired or worried. She remembered comforting a young actor who felt overwhelmed. She remembered sharing food with a makeup artist who skipped lunch during a long filming day. She remembered these moments because kindness mattered to her. It was never something she offered for attention. It was simply how she lived. As she viewed the photographs, she noticed something else. Each display carried a small tag that said thank you. She touched one tag gently and felt confusion rise in her chest. It seemed like these displays were connected to her, yet she had no idea why. She looked around again, hoping for a clue, but the room only grew more mysterious. Suddenly, a staff member approached her with a soft, respectful expression. The staff member handed her a small envelope and said it was from Keanu. Sandra thanked her and opened the note. The message was short and written in familiar handwriting. It said he would join the gathering soon, but she needed to see the truth before he appeared. Her breath shook lightly as she read the words. What truth? What was he trying to reveal? Why was this night arranged with so much care and secrecy? She folded the note and held it close. She took a slow breath to steady herself, but her heart carried the weight of something she could not name. She looked around the hall once more, sensing that every detail in the room was guiding her toward something important. A gentle wave of emotion passed through her. She felt the presence of something kind in the air, something respectful, something shaped by gratitude. Yet she did not understand why she felt it so strongly or why Keanu wanted her to see this before speaking to her. Guests continued whispering, the room filled with soft conversation, but curiosity felt heavier than the sound. Everyone wondered why the host was missing and why the event felt more emotional than celebratory. Some believed he was planning a major announcement. Others believed he was honoring a charity. No one expected the real reason. As Sandra walked deeper into the hall, her eyes caught another display. It showed letters she had once written to people who needed encouragement. Some were short messages to stunt performers she admired. Some were thank you notes to assistants who worked long days. She remembered writing them, but she never thought anyone kept them. A warm ache spread in her chest. She touched one letter and closed her eyes for a moment. This night was turning into something far more personal than she expected, and she still did not know why. She opened her eyes slowly and looked around again. The hall felt larger now, as if it held stories she had forgotten, stories that someone had collected piece by piece with incredible care. A soft thought entered her mind. Maybe this night was not about an announcement. Maybe it was not about a new project. Maybe someone wanted her to understand something about herself. Maybe Keanu wanted her to see her own quiet impact on others. But if that was true, then why now? Why after so many years? Why with such mystery? The music shifted to a softer melody. Lights dimmed slightly. Tension in the room thickened. Sandra felt the first spark of fear. Not fear of danger, but fear of an emotional truth waiting in the shadows. She sensed that this was only the beginning. She sensed that something deeper was coming, something that would change her understanding of the past. The hall doors closed gently behind the last guest. The room settled into a calm silence. And the night truly began. The hall felt alive with soft echoes of footsteps and quiet voices, yet Sandra moved through it with a growing sense of wonder and confusion. Each display revealed a new layer of meaning, and each moment pulled her deeper into a night she did not understand. She felt as if every step led her toward a truth she had unknowingly carried for many years. The gentle music wrapped around her like warm air, yet her heartbeat remained unsteady. She reached a second gallery where more items had been arranged with careful intention. There were photographs of actors resting on set with tired smiles. There were notes from crew members thanking someone unnamed for kind gestures. There were small gifts wrapped in ribbons that looked familiar to her eyes. She recognized them because she had once offered similar gifts during difficult productions. She breathed slowly as she realized these displays were not random memories. They were pieces of her own history, placed in a way that revealed how much her quiet actions had mattered to others. She stood still for a moment and felt her eyes sting with soft emotion. She never expected anyone to remember these things. She definitely never expected someone to collect them with such devotion. A group of guests whispered nearby. They admired the displays but wondered who arranged them. Sandra listened as they tried to understand the deeper purpose of the event. One guest said the space felt too emotional for a normal tribute. Another said it looked like someone wanted to honor a person who had changed lives. A third wondered if the entire hall was a message. Their confusion matched her own, yet she remained silent. She felt something inside her shifting, as if her heart recognized a story her mind could not yet see. She stepped into a new section where a large projection screen hung against the far wall. The lights dimmed slightly, and everyone turned toward the screen with anticipation. Sandra felt a strange pull in her chest. She wondered if this was the moment Keanu planned to reveal the meaning of the night. She waited with quiet breath as the screen flickered gently to life. The video began with simple clips of film sets. There were scenes from long shooting days when everyone looked tired but determined. There were moments of shared laughter between workers who rarely received public recognition. There were tiny acts of kindness captured by someone who seemed to watch from a distance. And then Sandra saw herself on the screen. She watched in stillness as past versions of herself moved through different sets. She saw herself handing water bottles to background actors on hot days. She saw herself covering a shivering stunt performer with her jacket during a cold evening shoot. She saw herself comforting a young actress who cried quietly after forgetting lines. She saw herself giving warm hugs to crew members who needed encouragement. She touched her chest as emotion rose inside her. She remembered every one of those days, yet she never imagined anyone filmed these moments. She never imagined they held special meaning to someone else. She had always acted out of simple compassion. It felt strange to see those gestures displayed with such tenderness. The audience reacted with soft murmurs. Some smiled warmly. Some felt moved. Some wiped small tears from their eyes. They seemed to understand that these moments revealed something deep about her character, something pure and resilient. Sandra looked away from the screen for a moment and tried to steady her breathing. She was grateful for the recognition, yet she felt overwhelmed by the attention. She wished to find Keanu, to understand why he created all of this, but he remained hidden. The video shifted to interviews recorded earlier. Crew members spoke directly to the camera with honest emotions. They thanked the person who once lifted their spirits. They thanked the person who believed in them during hard times. They thanked the person who reminded them that kindness could survive even in a demanding industry. They spoke about her without saying her name, yet every sentence pointed toward her heart. Her eyes filled again. She held her hands tightly to stop them from shaking. She felt humbled and unsure how to respond to such gentle praise. She never helped people to be honored. She helped them because it was the right thing to do. As the video faded, a brief silence filled the hall. No one moved. The stillness settled like soft snow. Sandra felt her breath catch as she sensed a deeper layer behind the tribute. Something about this night felt heavier than gratitude alone. She felt a growing tension that hinted at a hidden truth waiting to surface. A quiet voice addressed the crowd from behind a curtain. Everyone turned, expecting Keanu to appear, but instead a stage manager walked forward with calm steps. The manager explained that the next part of the night would involve personal stories shared by people who had been deeply touched by kindness that changed their lives. Sandra swallowed hard as she sensed where this was heading. The first speaker walked onto the small stage. He was a lighting technician Sandra vaguely recognized from a past production. He spoke with gentle emotion about the day he felt discouraged after a major mistake on set. He shared how someone approached him with a warm smile and told him everyone deserved a second chance. He said that simple sentence helped him regain confidence and continue his career. Sandra felt a soft ache inside her chest as she remembered that day. She never knew the moment stayed with him for so long. A second speaker stepped forward. She was a costume assistant who once faced financial hardship during filming. She explained how someone quietly paid for her transportation for several weeks until she stabilized again. She said the gesture saved her job and restored her hope. Sandra blinked slowly as she realized she had done that too. She had forgotten about it because she never kept track of such things. She only offered help when needed. The third speaker was an older stunt coordinator who spoke about an accident he witnessed many years ago. He described how Sandra had comforted a young performer who felt shaken after a fall. He said her gentle presence prevented the performer from quitting the industry. The stories continued, and each one pulled Sandra deeper into an emotional landscape she did not expect tonight. Every speaker expressed respect and gratitude. Every story revealed how small acts of kindness created lasting strength. She felt overwhelmed, yet she stood quietly and listened with humility. The room glowed with warmth. The air carried a peaceful tone. It felt like a celebration of humanity rather than fame. But a quiet tension sat beneath the surface. She felt it every time she wondered why Keanu had not appeared yet. She felt it every time she sensed the missing piece of this night. She felt it growing each time she remembered his note telling her there was a truth she needed to see first. As the final speaker left the stage, the lights dimmed again. A hush spread across the hall. An usher approached Sandra with careful steps, holding another envelope. He handed it to her gently and said it was time for her next step. Her fingers trembled slightly as she opened the envelope. The note inside contained only a short message written in familiar handwriting. It said she should walk to the west corridor to understand the meaning of the night. Her heart tightened. She looked toward the corridor. The hallway was dim and quiet, with warm lights guiding the path. She felt the tension rise inside her, yet she also felt a strange courage pushing her forward. The guests turned to watch her as she took her first step toward the corridor. They sensed something important was about to unfold. They sensed the night was moving into a deeper phase. Her footsteps echoed softly on the polished floor. Each step carried her closer to a truth she did not expect. Each step carried the weight of memories she had forgotten. Each step carried the possibility of a revelation that might change everything. She reached the entrance of the corridor, paused for a moment, and took a steady breath. Then she walked inside, unaware of the surprise waiting at the end. The corridor felt colder than the main hall, and the air carried a quiet heaviness that pressed softly against Sandra's chest. She walked slowly, letting her fingers glide across the smooth wall as she followed the warm lights that traced a gentle path ahead. Each step felt heavier than the last. Each breath felt deeper and slower. She sensed that this part of the night held a secret meant only for her. The hallway stretched like a long tunnel of memories. Small frames lined the walls, each carrying photographs that looked familiar yet distant. She moved closer to examine them. The first frame held an image of a young actress sitting alone on a staircase. She recognized the moment. She had once sat with that same actress and encouraged her to trust her talent. She remembered offering gentle words that carried kindness instead of pressure. The next frame showed a tired director smiling with relief during a chaotic shoot. She remembered standing beside him, offering calm encouragement when production faced delays. She remembered placing a hand on his shoulder and telling him the team would get through the challenge together. He had later thanked her, saying her words brought clarity during a stressful moment. Each frame revealed a memory she had forgotten, captured from angles she never noticed at the time. She felt a strange mix of warmth and confusion as she examined them. She wondered who collected these images, who recorded these small private gestures, and why they were displayed with such gentle intention tonight. She slowly continued down the corridor. The lights dimmed further as she moved deeper, creating a quiet sense of isolation. She reached a larger frame that stood alone in the center of the wall. The photograph inside showed her and Keanu sitting together during a break on their first film. Both looked young and hopeful, resting on a crate behind the set. They were laughing at something out of frame. Their expressions were relaxed and carefree. She touched the frame lightly. She remembered that day with perfect clarity. They had shared snacks and talked about dreams, fears, and small joys. That was the day she learned how much kindness lived inside him. That was the day she realized he carried quiet strength unlike anyone else she had met. She exhaled slowly as the memory brought a warm ache to her heart. She whispered a soft question to herself. Why would Keanu create this corridor of memories? Why now? Why in this emotional and secretive way? Her mind raced with possibilities, yet no answer felt complete. As she stepped forward, the corridor turned left into a narrow extension. At the end of the extension stood a table covered with a white cloth. A single spotlight illuminated it. The table held several envelopes stacked neatly in different sizes. Each envelope carried her initials written in familiar handwriting. She felt her breath shake as she touched the top envelope. Her fingertips brushed against the paper gently. It felt warm, as if someone held it moments earlier. She opened it slowly. Inside was a photograph of a young crew member she had helped many years ago. She remembered offering emotional support when he struggled with self-doubt. The photograph came with a short message thanking her for changing his path. She opened a second envelope. It held a picture of an elderly assistant who had worked through illness during a difficult production. She had helped arrange meals and transportation for him during that period. The message attached thanked her for dignity and care. She continued opening envelopes. Each one held a piece of her quiet kindness. Each message carried gratitude that stretched across years. She felt tears gather behind her eyes, yet she held them back. She tried to understand the purpose behind this collection. Someone had gathered these memories with extraordinary dedication. Someone had followed her acts of kindness across her entire career. Someone had saved these moments with deep respect. She whispered another question into the silent hallway. Why would Keanu show her these memories? What truth was he preparing her for? As she moved to the far end of the corridor, she noticed a final door slightly open. Soft golden light glowed through the narrow gap. Her heart thumped slowly as she reached for the door. She hesitated for a moment. The light felt warm, but the energy behind it felt powerful. She pushed the door gently and stepped inside. The room looked different from the hall. It felt more personal, almost intimate. The air smelled faintly of cedar and warm candles. The space held objects from her shared past with Keanu. She noticed props from their early films arranged on shelves. She saw old cast chairs with their names printed on the back. She saw handwritten notes exchanged during long filming days. She saw small souvenirs they collected during their early years of friendship. Each item carried emotional weight. Each item felt like a whisper from their younger selves. She felt her heart pull toward them with soft longing. She ran her fingers gently over a small keychain that Keanu once gave her. She smiled faintly at the memory of him handing it to her with shy humor. She remembered laughing and teasing him for choosing such a simple gift. He had replied that simple things often lasted longer. She turned slowly and noticed a glass case standing in the center of the room. Inside the case rested a hospital bracelet with Keanu's name printed on it. Her breath froze. She moved closer with soft, trembling steps. She stared at the bracelet, trying to understand why it was here. The bracelet looked old but preserved with care. She felt a chill climb up her arms. She did not know the meaning of this display. She searched her memory for any moment connecting her to a hospital bracelet, but nothing made sense. Her heartbeat quickened. Her palms grew warm. Something inside her recognized the emotional weight of this object, yet her mind struggled to grasp the reason behind it. As she leaned closer, she noticed a small card placed beside the bracelet. The card contained a message in Keanu's handwriting. The words were simple, but their meaning struck her like a quiet storm. It said, "You helped save me without knowing it." Her breath shook deeply. She felt a wave of fear and confusion. What moment was he referring to? What had she done without knowing? Why was this connected to a hospital bracelet? Her thoughts ran in circles, yet nothing answered the question fully. She stepped back slowly, trying to steady herself. Her heart felt heavy. Her mind felt tangled. She sensed that this room held the truth Keanu wanted her to see, yet the meaning remained just out of reach. She felt overwhelmed by the combination of nostalgia and secrecy. Then the lights in the room dimmed. A soft sound echoed behind her. She spun around quickly. The door she entered through was now closed. She walked toward it and tried the handle, but it would not open. A soft click locked it in place. Her heartbeat increased as she whispered his name into the quiet room. No answer came. A hidden projector ignited on the far wall and cast light against a blank surface. She stepped away slowly, unsure of what would appear. The projector hummed softly as an image formed. She recognized the hospital corridor on the screen. Her chest tightened as she watched Keanu sitting alone on a bench with his head lowered. He looked exhausted. He looked heartbroken. He looked lost. She felt her throat tighten. She had never seen this moment before. She had never known he had gone through something so heavy. She wondered when this happened. She wondered why he never told her. The video continued. She saw herself walking through the same corridor holding a small bag of food. She approached him slowly. She sat beside him. She placed the food in his hands. She spoke to him gently, offering comfort. She did not remember this moment clearly, yet the video showed it with perfect clarity. She had no idea he needed support so deeply that day. Keanu lifted his head in the video. His eyes looked tired but filled with warmth as she spoke. The recording captured her kindness. The recording captured his fragile state. The recording captured a moment she never realized carried life-changing meaning. She stared at the screen in disbelief. Her mind tried to recall this memory. She remembered bringing him food during a difficult period, but she never knew he was at a breaking point. She never knew this single act held so much weight. The projector flickered and shut off. The room fell into deep silence. Her breath came slow and uneven. She felt overwhelmed by the sudden emotional truth. She whispered to herself that she never knew. She never knew he was hurting. She never knew he needed her kindness that deeply. She never knew he held on to that moment for so many years. The door clicked again. She turned quickly. The door began to open with a slow, quiet movement, and a familiar silhouette stood behind it, waiting to step inside. The door opened slowly, letting a thin line of warm light stretch across the quiet room. Sandra stared at the silhouette standing in the doorway. Her heart beat with a sharp mix of relief and fear. She could not speak at first. She felt too full of emotion. The past few minutes had shaken her more deeply than she expected. The silhouette stepped forward. Keanu stood there with calm eyes and a gentle expression. He looked different tonight. He looked softer and more vulnerable than she had ever seen him. His posture carried quiet strength, but his eyes revealed a deeper truth. He watched her with respect, yet he also carried something heavy in his gaze. Sandra tried to steady her breathing. She wanted to ask him everything at once, yet the words refused to form. Her throat felt tight. Her hands trembled slightly as she waited for him to speak. Keanu stepped inside and closed the door behind him. The sound echoed softly through the small room. He took a slow breath and looked around at the displays. His eyes lingered on the hospital bracelet inside the glass case. He looked at it with a mixture of gratitude and pain. Sandra followed his gaze and felt her chest tighten again. Keanu turned toward her. His voice came slow and steady, shaped by emotion and honesty. He said he had spent years carrying a truth he never knew how to share. He said tonight was the only way he could show her how much she meant to him. He said he hoped she was ready to hear everything. She nodded gently, though uncertainty rippled through her. She felt a mixture of fear and compassion. She cared for him deeply, yet she did not know what he was about to reveal. She prepared her heart for something difficult. He walked toward the glass case and rested his hand on it softly. He explained that the bracelet belonged to a very painful chapter of his past. He said he had once reached a point where grief and loneliness had pushed him closer to breaking. He said he felt lost and invisible during that time. He said the world around him felt too heavy to survive. Sandra listened with quiet anguish. She had known he struggled with deep loss before, but she never knew how close he came to falling apart. She felt tears gather behind her eyes. She held her breath to keep them from falling. Keanu continued speaking. He said he had been alone in that hospital corridor, sitting in silence and carrying unbearable weight. He said he believed no one saw him. He said he thought he had no strength left to continue. He said he felt hopeless. Sandra stepped closer. Her voice trembled as she asked why he never told her. He gave a sad, gentle smile. He said he did not want to place his pain on her shoulders. He said he respected her too much. He said he never wanted her to feel responsible for his healing. She felt her heart break at his words. She wished he had trusted her. She wished she had known. She wished she could have supported him sooner. She felt guilt rise inside her, but he shook his head lightly as if sensing her thoughts. He told her not to blame herself. He said she did help him, even without knowledge, even without preparation, even without understanding the weight of that moment. He reached for a remote placed on a small table. He pressed a button. The projector lit up again, showing another clip. This time the recording captured their conversation more clearly. Sandra watched her younger self speaking with gentle kindness. She saw her hand rest on Keanu's arm as she offered comfort. She watched him slowly lift his head and breathe again. She saw life return to his eyes. She saw the moment he found strength. She felt her breath shake. She never imagined everything she said that day mattered so much. She never imagined a simple gesture held such power. She never imagined her presence saved him from collapsing into darkness. The projection switched to a new angle. She saw a nurse standing at a distance. The nurse watched the moment quietly. The nurse later approached Keanu and said he looked stronger. She said his friend gave him courage. She said he seemed ready to get through the day. The recording captured every word. Sandra pressed her hand against her mouth. She could not stop a small tear from falling. She felt overwhelmed by the truth unfolding in front of her. She whispered that she never knew. Keanu nodded and said he never told her because he did not want to change their friendship. He wanted their connection to stay pure. He wanted to honor the trust between them. The projector turned off again. The room returned to stillness. Keanu walked toward her slowly. He looked into her eyes with sincerity so deep it felt almost fragile. He said the entire event tonight was not a tribute for fame or recognition. He said he created everything to thank her for the kindness she gave without expectation. He said he wanted the world to understand how powerful her heart was. He said she had changed countless lives, including his own. Sandra felt her emotions break open. She tried to speak, but the words struggled to escape. She managed to tell him that she never wanted to be honored like this. She said kindness was something she gave naturally. She said she never expected anything in return. She looked down for a moment, feeling shy under the weight of such deep appreciation. Keanu stepped closer. He lifted her chin gently with one hand and told her there was more she needed to know. He said the truth behind this night went deeper than memories and gratitude. He said there was a part of the story she still did not understand. He said he had kept one final piece hidden because it was the hardest part to reveal. Sandra felt tension rise inside her chest. She sensed another twist approaching. She sensed the night had not yet reached its full truth. She sensed Keanu was preparing her for something much heavier. She asked softly what he meant. He took another breath, slow and controlled. He said the moment she comforted him in that hospital was not a small moment. He said it happened on a day when he stood at the edge of a decision that could have changed his life forever. He said her kindness made him step away from a dangerous path. He said her words helped him survive the darkest night of his life. She stared at him in shock. She whispered that she still did not understand. He looked at her with gentle sorrow and said she would understand soon. He said there was something he wanted to show her next, something he had never shown anyone before, something that revealed how her kindness saved him in ways she never imagined. He walked toward a second door at the back of the room. The door was small and painted in soft white. She had not noticed it before. He placed his hand on the doorknob and paused. He turned to her with serious eyes. He said once she crossed this door, she would see the final truth. He asked if she was ready. Her heartbeat pulsed like a drum, fear mixed with courage. She stepped forward slowly. She told him she wanted to know everything. Keanu opened the door. The room beyond was filled with soft golden light. And something inside that room made Sandra freeze completely. Sandra stepped into the glowing room with slow, careful steps. The air felt warmer here, almost like sunlight on quiet mornings. She looked around with wide eyes as her heartbeat thumped with rising intensity. The space was larger than the last room, yet it felt more intimate. Every object placed inside held quiet purpose. The walls were covered with letters, photographs, and small keepsakes. Each item looked carefully arranged. Each item seemed connected to a moment in her life. She saw notes written by people she once helped. She saw pictures of strangers she encouraged during difficult shoots. She saw thank-you cards from crew members she barely remembered. The room looked like a museum built from her quiet acts of kindness. She felt breathless as she took in the sight. She whispered softly to herself, wondering who collected these memories so faithfully. She glanced at Keanu with questioning eyes. He stepped beside her and said he had spent years gathering everything. He said he wanted her to see the impact she never recognized. He said he wanted her to understand how deeply she shaped the lives around her. Sandra felt her throat tighten with emotion. She reached out and touched a letter pinned to the wall. The letter came from a young assistant she once helped during a difficult month. The assistant wrote that her kindness saved him from leaving the industry. She remembered offering support, but she never knew how much it meant. Tears burned behind her eyes as she moved to another letter then another. She looked back at Keanu and asked softly why he did all this. He lowered his head for a moment before lifting his eyes again. His voice came calm and steady. He said she gave hope to others without expecting anything in return. He said she healed people with gentle words. He said she carried light in a world that often forgot to be kind. He said she deserved to see the truth of her influence. She felt overwhelmed by the sincerity in his voice. Her chest filled with warmth and a quiet ache. She told him she never looked at kindness as something special. She said it was simply her way of living. He smiled slightly and told her that simple kindness often shapes the world more than grand gestures. She walked deeper into the room. The lights reflected softly off the photographs, creating a gentle glow around her. She saw more memories displayed on stands. She saw small objects she once gifted to people during difficult days. She saw items she never thought anyone kept. She felt humbled by the dedication required to find and preserve each piece. As she moved forward, she noticed a large board standing near the back wall. The board held dozens of notes written in different handwriting styles. She walked closer and began reading them. The notes thanked her for strength, compassion, and encouragement. They thanked her for listening. They thanked her for always seeing the good in people. Every note carried deep emotion. Her hands trembled slightly as she realized how many hearts she had touched. She whispered to Keanu that she never knew these gestures lasted so long. He replied that her kindness created ripples that reached far beyond her awareness. He said he had witnessed those ripples for years. He said the world often underestimated her gentle strength, but he never did. She stared at him with emotional eyes. She finally understood that this night was not about public honor. It was about private truth. It was about a friendship shaped by deep respect and quiet love. It was about gratitude held in silence for too many years. But Keanu's expression changed suddenly. Something heavier appeared in his gaze. He said there was a deeper reason behind this collection. He said the memories were not only about the people she helped. They were also about the moment she unknowingly helped him survive. Sandra felt the room shift around her. She sensed another revelation coming, stronger and heavier than the last. She asked him gently what he meant. His eyes filled with emotion as he lifted a small box from a nearby table. He held it carefully as if it contained fragile truth. He opened the box and revealed several pages folded neatly inside. He said these were pages from a journal he kept during the hardest period of his life. He said he wrote every day to stay grounded. He said he never planned to show anyone these pages. He said he kept them locked away until now. Sandra looked at the box with growing tension. She asked softly why he wanted her to see them. He took a deep breath and told her the journal held the truth about how her kindness saved him. He said she deserved to know how powerful her influence truly was. He said she changed his path on a day when he almost gave up. She felt fear and compassion mix inside her heart. She took one of the folded pages and opened it slowly. His handwriting covered the paper in careful lines. The words described a night filled with unbearable grief. He wrote about feeling completely alone. He wrote about losing hope. He wrote about sitting in a hospital corridor unable to breathe from emotional pain. Her eyes moved down the page. She saw a line that made her heart jolt. He wrote that he had reached a point where he no longer wanted to continue. He wrote that he felt invisible. He wrote that the weight of his sorrow felt too heavy to hold any longer. Her breath trembled as she read the next part. He wrote that Sandra walked in at the exact moment he needed someone to see him. He wrote that her voice softened his pain. He wrote that her kind eyes gave him strength to breathe again. He wrote that she unknowingly pulled him away from the edge of a dangerous decision. Sandra pressed her hand against her heart. She felt dizzy with emotion. She never imagined her presence carried such powerful weight. She had comforted him because she cared, but she never knew she saved him in that moment. Keanu watched her reaction carefully. He stepped closer and spoke with gentle honesty. He said she was the reason he chose to fight through the darkness. He said she reminded him of his value when he forgot it. He said she changed the direction of his life without realizing it. She looked up at him with tear-filled eyes. Her voice shook as she whispered that she wished he had told her earlier. He replied that he did not want to place the burden of his pain on her shoulders. He said he needed time to heal before he could share the truth. He said tonight felt like the first moment he had the strength to reveal everything. She wiped a tear from her cheek and stepped nearer. She told him she was grateful he trusted her now. She told him she was honored to know the truth. She told him she would have stood with him through anything if she had known how deeply he struggled. Keanu held the box gently and placed it back on the table. He said there was one final part of the story she still did not know. He said the greatest truth remained hidden behind one last door. Sandra turned slowly toward a second doorway she had not noticed before. It stood in the far corner, framed by soft golden light. The door was slightly open, just enough to show a warm glow from inside. Keanu walked toward the door with steady steps. Sandra followed him with rising tension in her chest. She felt the air shift again, as if the next room held a truth even more powerful than everything she had seen tonight. Keanu reached the door and placed his hand on it. He turned to her with deep emotion in his eyes. He said this final room would reveal why he arranged the entire event. He said it would show the reason he honored her tonight. He said she needed to see this last truth to understand the full story. Sandra stepped closer. Her breath grew slow and heavy. She nodded with quiet courage. Keanu pushed the door open. The moment she looked inside, her entire body froze. Sandra stood frozen as the final room opened before her. The golden light inside felt warm and peaceful, yet something powerful pulsed beneath its calm glow. She stepped forward slowly, trying to steady her breath while her heart pounded with rising tension. She sensed this room held the most important truth of the entire night. Every part of her body felt alert. Every emotion inside her remained suspended between fear and hope. The room was small, yet filled with soft, gentle light that reflected off the polished floor. A long table stood at the center, covered with white fabric. On the table rested several framed pages, photographs, and small objects arranged with careful devotion. Sandra walked closer, feeling the air thicken with meaning she could not name. As she reached the table, her eyes widened. The framed pages were not from projects or fan letters. They were parts of Keanu's personal journal. She saw entries from different years, written during moments of pain, healing, and deep reflection. Each entry mentioned her in some gentle way. She saw lines describing her kindness as a guiding force. She saw sentences expressing gratitude for her presence. She saw quiet notes about how her compassion shaped his recovery. Her breath trembled as she read more. Keanu wrote that he often found strength by remembering her voice. He wrote that her belief in him helped him rebuild confidence. He wrote that her kindness reminded him to keep moving forward during lonely nights. She realized these entries stretched across many years. He had carried her kindness like a steady light through long, silent seasons of struggle. She looked up with wide, emotional eyes. Keanu stepped closer, his expression deeply sincere. He told her these were the moments he kept hidden because he did not want to burden her. He said she gave him hope when he felt no direction. He said she helped him survive quietly without ever being aware of her influence. Sandra felt overwhelmed. Tears slid down her cheeks with slow, gentle movement. She placed her hand on one of the frames and whispered that she never knew. He nodded softly and said he did not expect her to know. He said kindness often shines brightest when it expects nothing in return. He said her heart carried that rare kind of goodness. She moved further along the table. She noticed a small velvet box placed near the end. She reached for it with trembling fingers. As she opened it, she saw an old folded piece of paper inside. She lifted it gently. It looked aged and worn, as if it had been opened many times over the years. She unfolded the paper slowly. Her eyes scanned the handwritten words. The note was from her. She recognized her own handwriting instantly. It was the same small note she gave him in the hospital that day. She wrote it quickly and quietly, thinking it was just a small gesture to help him through the moment. She had forgotten the exact words, but the note now sat in her hands like a delicate piece of destiny. The note said he was not alone. It told him he mattered. It told him he was stronger than the pain. It told him she believed in him. Simple words written in simple kindness. Keanu watched her with soft, emotional eyes. He said he kept that note for years because it saved him. He said those words carried him through nights when he doubted himself. He said the note became a reminder that someone saw him with gentle understanding. He said it changed him more than anything else in his life. Sandra pressed the note to her heart. She whispered that she wished she had known he kept it. She wished she understood how much it meant. She wished she could have supported him more openly. He shook his head and stepped closer. He said she supported him in every way he needed. He said she gave kindness without expecting anything. He said her silence had deeper meaning than anyone else's loud comfort. She felt a warm tear fall on her hand. She wiped it slowly and looked at him with deep emotion. She asked him why he chose tonight to reveal everything. He took a breath, then spoke with calm honesty. He said he carried this story inside him for too long. He said he wanted the world to honor her kindness. He said he wanted her to see her own reflection in the lives she touched. He said he wanted her to understand how powerful she truly was. Sandra stepped closer. Her voice shook softly as she told him she never needed recognition. She said kindness was her natural way. He nodded and replied that he knew this well. He said that was exactly why he wanted to honor her. He said people deserve to see the beauty they create without realizing it. The room felt peaceful again, yet the weight of emotion remained strong. She looked around at the memories carefully gathered over many years. She realized the entire night existed because of a single moment of kindness. She realized small actions can transform someone's life without warning. She realized Keanu carried gratitude for her deeper than she imagined. Keanu walked toward another stand near the corner. He picked up a binder filled with pages. He handed it to her with gentle care. She opened it and saw dozens of letters from strangers she never met. Keanu explained that he had anonymously asked people who admired her to share how her kindness inspired them. The letters described how her interviews brought comfort. They described how her sincerity encouraged people to stay hopeful. They described how her strength inspired resilience. Sandra read the letters with tears streaming freely down her face. She whispered grateful words as her heart softened even more. She felt humbled by the love expressed in so many voices. She felt grateful that her life, lived quietly with compassion, gave others strength. Keanu stepped behind her and placed his hand on her shoulder. He spoke with gentle emotion. He said he wanted her to see the world through the eyes of those she helped. He said he wanted her to recognize the magnitude of her compassion. He said this night was his way of honoring her legacy of goodness. She turned to face him fully. Her tears shimmered under the warm light. She held his hands and whispered that she was grateful for his trust. She said she was honored to know how deeply she touched his life. She said she felt humbled by his dedication to reveal the truth. Keanu breathed slowly as emotion filled his eyes. He told her there was one final truth she needed to hear. He said she did not only save him once. He said she saved him many times across the years. She saved him every time she offered support. She saved him every time she brought warmth to difficult days. She saved him every time she reminded him he mattered. Sandra held her breath as his words grew heavier. He told her something he never said aloud. He said she became the reason he survived his hardest chapter. He said she taught him resilience through kindness. He said she helped him rebuild his heart piece by piece without knowing it. She stepped closer and rested her forehead against his chest. He wrapped his arms around her gently. Their embrace felt full of history, trust, and emotional truth. They stood in silence for a long moment as tears softened their connection. After a while, Keanu guided her to the center of the room. He pressed a button on a small remote. Soft lights filled the space around them. Suddenly, the main hall doors opened. The guests entered quietly, forming a semi-circle around them. Every face carried warmth and respect. Every person understood the significance of this moment. Keanu spoke to the room with calm emotion. He told everyone that tonight was not about fame or celebration. He said it was about honoring a woman whose kindness touched countless lives. He said Sandra taught everyone the power of compassion. He said her spirit created hope where doubt once lived. The room filled with soft applause. People smiled warmly. Some wiped tears. Sandra felt overwhelmed again. She placed a hand over her heart to steady herself. She felt honored yet shy in front of such genuine appreciation. Keanu lifted her hand gently. He said she gave the world more kindness than it ever expected. He said tonight was his way of returning a small part of that love. He looked into her eyes with deep sincerity. He said, "You saved me when you never knew I needed saving. You changed my path with kindness that expected nothing. You gave me hope when I had none. This night exists because you gave me my life back." Sandra felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him tightly. The room grew silent again as they embraced in a moment filled with gratitude, respect, and deep unspoken understanding. She whispered that she was grateful he lived through the darkness. She whispered that she was honored her kindness found him. She whispered that she would always stand by him with unwavering care. Keanu smiled softly and rested his forehead against hers. He thanked her again with quiet sincerity. He told her she would always be honored because she changed hearts without seeking praise. The guests applauded again, softer this time, filled with emotion rather than excitement. The atmosphere glowed with warmth. The night felt complete. Sandra looked around and realized this gathering reflected a powerful truth. Kindness shapes the world quietly yet deeply. Small gestures create lasting strength. Compassion can save lives in silent ways. Keanu guided her back toward the entrance of the room. They walked side by side, their connection stronger than ever. The night had revealed pain, gratitude, healing, and truth. Their bond now carried deeper meaning. As they reached the doorway, Sandra stopped and looked back at the room filled with memories. She felt peace settle in her heart. She finally understood the purpose of everything. This night was not a tribute to her career. It was a message about the power of kindness. It was a reminder that healing comes from moments people rarely notice. She looked at Keanu with gentle warmth. He smiled softly and took her hand. Together, they stepped out of the room. And the night became a memory they would carry forever.